Okay, reference. In measurement, we use these things called reference. All they do is help us to understand, especially distance. Okay, so for example, when things are small, all you gotta do is highlight that. When things are small, okay, I would use what as a referent? So, say I wanted to measure the width of my textbook. What would I use? Maybe a thumb? That make sense? Okay, so you're just using physical things to represent length, and that's all we'll do in this course is length. So I would use a thumb, and I can measure things like the width of a textbook. Okay, and reference, you're always going to get one question on a test, on your unit exam or on a final exam that involve reference. Okay, so reference is a word that's similar. Reference. You guys know this word, reference? When you reference something. Okay, so that's all you're doing. You're using an item to measure something. What would you do for something large? I think everyone, like if you had to measure the distance from here to the store, or from your friend's house to another friend's house, what would you say? Would you say it's blocks? There you go. Oops, wrong section. Block. Okay, it's like 5 blocks from here. What else could you say? There's always a common one. It's a sports reference. How many people always say it all the time? How many football fields? You ever hear that? Okay, so this is to measure things like distance between houses or something like this, or how far to the store. And then when things are medium, I would use, and a common one is a hand. If you've ever worked with horses, that's what they use. I would use a hand as a referent to measure things like the height of a horse. So it's just giving like a physical reference to something so that we can all understand it. Because if you say, well, it's 13 decimeters away, like what is that? I don't even know what a decimeter is. So these are more everyday use. Okay. Okay, moving on. In this course, you're going to have to know 2 things. For units, it's imperial versus metric. Imperial is, I guess, the American system. And then the metric is what we use in Canada, and the whole rest of the world uses metric. So like if you go to Europe and then you want to know how much liquid is in your bottle, they might use centiliters. We use milliliters. If you look at the can, how many milliliters. But if you go to the United States, then you're going to talk about like how much quarts, or how many cups, or how many ounces. These are all things that we might not be familiar with. In this course, it's going to be length, and length only. So it's like mile, inch, yard for the American system, and then for the Canadian system, it's your meter, and then all the different meters, like centimeter, kilometer, etc. In this course, we don't do weight, we don't do grams, okay? We don't do any of that. So it's just length. Am I on the right page? Okay, so just to give you guys something to refer to, and I'll bring out a tape measure to help. Okay, so if you look up, you can see I've extended the tape measure only a tiny bit, and it's like my thumb. And I got a pretty fat thumb, so it works perfectly. Like if you're a skinny person, a young girl or something, 2 thumbs. But for me, nice fat thumb, that's an inch. Okay? You guys need to know what an inch is. If you have 12 of the inches, then guess what? You got a foot. Okay? And then, so it's completely random, like why 12? That's just the way the imperial system is. It's just random numbers, okay? That's what's the difference between imperial and metric. Metric, we use 10. We all have 10 fingers. We all understand how to count with tens. We do our number system with tens, okay? You have your ones, your tens, your hundreds, your thousands. It just goes up by factors of 10. So metric is super simple, and it's built that way to be simple. But imperial is weird, okay? So random numbers like 12. And like for ounces and pounds, it's 16. Like, why is it 16? Who knows? It's just the way they did it. So on your formula sheet, what you'll have here is a metric line at the top. Okay, and I'll give you some strategies for that in a bit. And then you have your metric to imperial conversions in this box here. So basically, we're going to start off the year with these two charts. And on the most left of the chart, you'll see miles, yards, feet, and inches. And then on the right here, you have when it goes between the two systems. So these are just up to a certain amount of decimals about accuracy and precision. It's not really a big deal. It's not like we're sending a satellite into space and we're worried about blowing it up or anything. It's, you know, it's math 10. So whether it's a couple decimals off or whatever, I'll still give you the mark as long as you've done the conversion the proper way. Okay, so my human ruler. Okay, my human ruler. So when I want to estimate using the units of inches, I compare it to my thumb. And we already did that one. When I want to estimate using the units of feet, I compare it to my foot. So those are, the foot is obvious. And then the next one is yard. To compare a yard is similar to a meter. Okay, they're almost identical. So this is roughly a yard. Okay, and for the human, it's your pace, or like one stride when you're walking. So you do like one walk. It's roughly a yard. So if you ever watch kids outside play football, they'll go 10 walks. And then all that is 10 yards, and then they try to get there to get the first down, and they can keep playing their game. Okay, centimeter. Centimeter, you know, on the meter stick, there's 100 little ticks. So for me, because my fingers are fat, roughly a pinky is the centimeter. So the centimeter is smaller than the inch. And in fact, you need a couple centimeters to get the inch. So centimeter is smaller than the inch, so we'll say the pinky. The meter and the yard are related, so it's the same, your pace or your stride. And then the kilometer, I don't even know what, you can't even do this for a human being. Like, you gotta lay down like how many meters am I? I'm like roughly 2 meters, my height, roughly. And I need 1,000 of these guys. So 500 human beings laid down next to each other. Like, that's just weird. So I'll write it down, but it's weird. 500 humans laid down, you know, head to toe, head to toe, head to toe, and then you'd have a kilometer. Everybody see the board okay? No issues at the back? I can do a little walkthrough back here, check for cell phones. Look at all you guys, so good, first day. I don't even have to yell anymore, I got the microphone. I'm gonna go home at night and my voice won't hurt. Technology. Okay, so which units are appropriate for measuring each of the following? So this is a nice little exercise on deciding whether it's metric or imperial, and we can get used to these guys. So your height, everyday life, what do you guys use for your height? Everybody uses this. How tall are you? You always use feet and inch. Everybody does it. So your teacher is 5 foot. That's a little tick. And he's 11 3/4 of an inch. I'm almost at 6 feet. How much more do I need to be 6 feet? Only 1/4 inch. So I'm really close to 6 feet. And in fact, if you counted my spiky hair, I would be 6 feet. Okay, but I'm just under 6 feet. So the double tick, do you guys see this? The double tick, if you see that, that means inch, and the single tick that means foot. Okay, so 5 feet and almost another foot. It's like groups of 12. Okay, groups of 12. So if somebody's 15 inches, they're 1 foot 3, because you have to do groups of 12. So 12 is one group, 3 more. Okay, so 1 foot 3 is 15 inches. We'll get into that in a little bit. And then if you ever check your ID card from the government of Alberta, so your license plate, or if you ever drive, not your license plate, your, what do you call it? Your photo ID, yeah, from the Alberta government. It'll be in centimeters, okay? So I might be, I think I'm like 170 something centimeters, so. Now the wallet photograph, they'll use inch for this, and they'll use centimeter as well. They might use millimeter, but. So you ever hear of like a 5x7? Like when you're getting a photo? 5x7. Okay, so moving on. The distance between towns, what's that going to be in metric? Yeah, kilometer. And in imperial? What's the equivalent? Mile, yeah. The mile is bigger than the kilometer. In fact, you need like 1.6 kilometers to get a mile. Okay, so that's why like when you're driving in the United States, if you're going 40 miles per hour, in Canada that would be like almost 60 kilometers per hour. So it's lower. Even though the number's lower in the speed, you're actually going faster in kilometers because the mile's bigger. Okay. So if you talk to your parents, they might use miles because that's what they're used to when they're growing up. But most people, like my generation, your generation, we use kilometers. And if you ever go to Europe, like everything's metric. It's really weird. So like, you might say you're 5'11", they'd be like, no, they would just say I'm 180 centimeters. And you're like, well, I don't even know what that is. But okay, length of a driveway. What would you use for that? Definitely the meter. Okay, and then equivalent to the meter would be yard. You could also use feet. Like if you're getting a job in construction later, they use feet for everything. Okay, they wouldn't use yard. They would use feet. Feet is the go-to. Feet is everything. Computer screen. So if you're gonna go buy like what do they use? Gonna go buy a TV at Best Buy. What do they use? Inch, right? 50 inch, 55 inch, whatever. And that's actually the distance of the diagonal. Okay, that's how they measure the TV, the diagonal. And for a computer screen, for metric, like I don't even think, like you go to the store, they don't have that. You don't get your screen at Best Buy in metric. So, but it would be centimeter. So you can see that even though in Canada we use metric for, supposed to use metric for everything, we don't. Because most people are used to the imperial system and it's not going to go away anytime soon. Thickness of a book, well it depends on the book, but centimeter, millimeter, and the lowest you can get for imperial is inch, so that's it. Let's go to the next page. I think that you understand reference, and I'll mention this briefly. Standardization. You're not going to get a test question on standardization, but just so you know that why do we do this? Why do we have a thing called a meter? Well, it's so that when you go around the world, we all are talking about the same thing. And it's a standard. Everyone's up to the same standard. Okay, so a centimeter in Canada is the same as in India. Okay, and that's reference. So I think we can move on from that. Okay, and this day one continued metric to imperial. For the rest of the class here, I'll just have you, well, see this box? You have it on your yellow sheet. So don't worry about this box. You just refer to your yellow sheet, your formula sheet, okay? Refer to, and I'll just call it the F sheet, your formula sheet. And I will teach you metric, I think, today, and then that'll be that, because there's only 5 minutes left. So I'll teach you metric. Most of you already know metric. My grade 4 son knows metric. It's not a difficult thing to do. And I want you all to know and memorize metric today. And never forget. Because in high school, science and math, you'll always have it. So after today, you're going to decide for yourself, I will always remember the metric system because it's darn easy. Can we all agree to that? Okay. On your yellow sheet, you have the units there in front of you, okay? So don't write on your yellow sheet, but it's right there in front of you, and you can write this down on your notes page. Okay. What's in the middle? It's your standard unit. It is the meter. If it was a different thing we're measuring, if it wasn't length, if it was like mass, it would be the gram. If it was like how much liquid can a container hold, it would be the liter. But for us, in 10C, we're only going to worry about length. In Science 10, they'll do the other ones. Meter. It's right smack dab in the middle. Now, all you need to remember, and everybody knows this because you've seen meter sticks in schools your whole life. How many centimeter ticks are in the meter? There's 100 little ticks. So what happened to the unit, meter to centimeter? Did your unit get bigger or smaller? Your unit is a smaller unit. Clearly the centimeter, which we said was the pinky, is smaller than your meter, which we said was like your pace, your walking stride. So we know clearly that the centimeter is smaller. What happened to the number? The number got bigger. Obviously, a meter is the width of your pace. The centimeter is your pinky. How many pinkies could you fit? Roughly 100. So this is what you need to know and understand, that as your units get smaller, your numbers get bigger, and vice versa. Okay? If I had 1 kilometer, actually, so if I had 1 meter, how many kilometers do I have? 0.001 kilometer. So if the unit gets bigger, our number gets smaller. Okay? And every jump counts as a factor of 10. So decimeter, you times by 10. Centimeter, you times by 10. Millimeter, you times by 10.
Good morning, East Glen. Welcome back to semester 2, and we got a special couple announcements just for you guys.
If you go the other way,
Indoor soccer practice today after school. There's a game Wednesday after
you divide by
school,
10.
East Soccer Center versus Victoria. And welcome back, Austin. Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with this next class. As long as you know this, you'll be good. And just listen to the announcements and have a great lunch.